When did jealousy at work turn into real sabotage? I never thought jealousy at work could unravel my life the way it did. It started with something small, a comment in the break room, a lingering look when the boss praised me in front of everyone. I brushed it off, thinking maybe I was imagining it. But I wasn't. Her name was Clara. On paper, she was perfect. Smart, articulate, ambitious. She'd been at the company for years before I joined, and everyone said she had seniority, though it wasn't an official title. When I came in, I didn't mean to step on her toes. I just worked hard. I stayed late, picked up extra projects, offered to help others when deadlines piled up. It wasn't about showing off. It was survival. I'd lost my last job in the pandemic, and this was my second chance. I wasn't going to blow it, but Clara saw it differently. She saw me as competition. I remember the first time she made it clear. We'd just wrapped up a big client presentation. I'd prepared most of the deck, polished the numbers, even rehearsed the delivery with my manager, and it went flawlessly. After the meeting, everyone congratulated me, clapping my back. I felt proud for the first time in a long time. Then Clara leaned in, her smile tight, her whisper sharp. "Don't get used to it." I laughed it off, but her eyes didn't. They were cold. Calculating. The small things started first. My reports would go missing from the shared drive. Files I knew I'd uploaded suddenly weren't there. Clara would find them in the wrong folder hours later, smirking like she'd rescued me. Emails I sent to the team mysteriously never reached half the recipients. And when deadlines loomed, she'd notice my mistakes I was certain I hadn't made. At home, I brushed it off. My girlfriend Emma told me to stop overthinking. "She's probably just insecure," she said, curling up next to me on the couch. "Focus on your work. Don't let her get in your head." So I tried, but Clara didn't stop. The first real blow came when my boss, Martin, pulled me into his office one afternoon. His tone was polite, but his brow furrowed. "We need to talk about that error in the financial forecast." "What error?" I asked, genuinely confused. He turned his screen toward me. My spreadsheet, the one I'd double-checked, showed a glaring mistake. A misplaced decimal that made the projections look absurd. My stomach dropped. I knew I hadn't done that. But there it was, my file, under my name. "Be careful," Martin warned. "This isn't like you." "But clients notice." I nodded, swallowing down the panic. Walking back to my desk, I saw Clara watching me, her lips curving just enough to tell me everything I needed to know. She'd done this, somehow. And that's when I started doubting myself. Was I paranoid? Was I losing my grip? Or was Clara really altering my work behind my back? I started staying later, working past midnight sometimes. I locked my files with passwords. I kept backups on a flash drive I hid in my bag. Still, errors appeared, subtle but damaging. Enough to make me look careless. Emma began to worry. "You're barely sleeping. You're stressed all the time. What's going on?" I couldn't explain it properly. How do you tell someone that your coworker seems to be waging a silent war against you? It sounded childish, petty. So I said, "Work's just intense right now." She kissed my forehead, but her eyes stayed searching, like she didn't quite believe me. Things escalated when a client email, supposedly sent by me, went out with the wrong attachments, confidential drafts instead of the polished reports. My name was on it, but I hadn't sent it. I knew I hadn't. Martin was furious. I was put on informal probation. Clara's sympathy was venom disguised as honey. "Don't worry," she said, patting my shoulder, her voice just loud enough for others to hear. "We all make mistakes." I wanted to scream, but the breaking point came at the holiday party. Everyone was drinking, loosening up. Martin gave a short speech, thanking the team, and then, unexpectedly, he called my name. He said I'd been instrumental in bringing in 2 new accounts that year. He raised his glass to me. People clapped, and for one fleeting moment, I felt vindicated. Then Clara leaned in again, her perfume sharp, her words sharper. "You think you've won, but I'm not finished." I froze, my glass halfway to my lips. Her eyes burned into me, and suddenly I knew this wasn't paranoia. This was real. 2 weeks later, the sabotage stopped being subtle. One morning I came in, and my computer wouldn't log in. IT told me my password had been reset after suspicious activity. Someone had tried to access restricted files under my account. Files I had no reason to touch. HR was called. An investigation started. Clara watched it all unfold, her face the picture of innocent concern. And that night, when I got home, I found a note slipped under my apartment door. No envelope, no name, just 3 words written in block letters. "I warned you." My blood ran cold. This wasn't just workplace rivalry anymore. This was personal, and I had no idea just how far Clara was willing to go. When you start questioning your own sanity, you know someone else is pulling the strings. After the note, I barely slept. Every creak in my apartment made me sit up in bed, my pulse racing. I told myself it was just intimidation, a sick little mind game Clara was playing. But the fact that she knew where I lived, that was something else entirely. Emma found me pacing the living room at 3 a.m., coffee mug in hand, staring at the note like it might change its message if I looked long enough. "Who left that?" she asked. I shook my head. "I don't know, but I think it was her." Emma's brows furrowed. "Clara? From work? You're serious?" I hesitated. Saying it out loud made it sound insane. But the fear in my chest was too real. She's been sabotaging me for months, my files, my emails. Now this. Emma reached for the note, turning it over. Blank. Just those 3 words on one side. You need to go to HR. I did. They already think I'm screwing up. If I start pointing fingers without proof, I'll look paranoid. Or worse, unstable. Emma set the note down carefully, like it might explode. Then get proof. You can't fight someone like this blind. That night, I bought a tiny USB recorder online. Slipped it into my bag the next morning. If Clara was planning to slip up, I'd catch her. For days, I tried. I recorded conversations in the break room, in meetings, even during casual chats when she leaned across my desk with her too perfect smile. But Clara never said anything incriminating. She was too smart for that. Then something strange happened. I got called into Martin's office again. My stomach knotted as I sat down. He didn't look angry this time. He looked wary. We've been reviewing some of your emails, he said slowly, sliding a printout across the desk. It was an exchange between me and a client, except I hadn't written it. The words were sharp, condescending, the kind of tone that would destroy a relationship instantly. I didn't write this, I said immediately. Martin's eyes searched mine. Then who did? I don't know. But it wasn't me, he sighed, rubbing his temples. Look, I believe you're a good worker, but the pattern is worrying. If this continues, I won't be able to protect you. Protect me. The words echoed like a warning. When I left his office, Clara was standing in the hallway. She smiled as I passed, like she'd just heard the punchline of some private joke. My recorder was running in my pocket, but all she said, sweet as honey, was, rough day? That night, Emma urged me to tell my parents. I laughed bitterly. My dad barely believed in sick days, let alone workplace sabotage. Just tough it out, he'd say. My mom would tell me to keep my head down. So instead, I called my brother Luke. You're being paranoid, he said after I poured it all out. Workplaces are toxic sometimes, but a coworker targeting you. Come on. I wanted to hang up, but then he said, unless she's obsessed with you. The idea made my skin crawl. Clara wasn't exactly warm toward me, but there was something unsettling about the intensity in her eyes sometimes. Like she was watching me too closely. Not attraction. Something darker. The next week, the line between work and personal life blurred completely. I came home late one night, exhausted, and found my front door slightly ajar. Nothing was missing, nothing broken. But Emma swore she'd locked it when she left. Then, 2 days later, Emma's car was keyed. Deep, angry gouges down both sides. A single word scratched into the paint. Rat. Emma wanted to go to the police. But what could we prove? A keyed car, an unlocked door, a threatening note. No fingerprints, no footage. Just suspicions. I started losing weight, missing meals. I'd sit at my desk staring at my screen, my mind looping through every possible way Clara could be plotting against me next. My performance slipped, which only made things worse. One evening, as I was shutting down, Clara appeared beside my desk. You look tired, she said softly. Too softly. Careful. People make mistakes when they're tired. My skin prickled. What do you want from me? Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Nothing. As long as you stay in your lane. She walked away before I could reply. That night, Emma held me as I shook. You can't let her break you, she whispered. But I already was. 2 days later, the real trap snapped shut. Martin called me into his office again, his face grave. IT flagged suspicious downloads under your account. Client data. Sensitive information. My heart stopped. I didn't. It doesn't matter. He cut me off. The company has no choice. You're suspended until further notice. HR will contact you. When I left the office, Clara was at her desk. She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. Her smirk said everything. I was finished. But when I got home that night, Emma shoved her phone at me. You need to see this. It was security footage from the parking garage. My car, and a figure in a hoodie leaning against it. A woman's silhouette. She turned slightly toward the camera, before disappearing into the shadows. Emma's voice shook. That's Clara. For the first time, I had proof. But what I didn't know yet was that the worst was still coming. Because Clara wasn't just sabotaging my job. She was about to sabotage my entire life. When you realize someone is dismantling your life piece by piece, the question stops being if you'll break, it's when. The security footage should have been my salvation. Proof that Clara was stalking me beyond work. But proof means nothing if no one's willing to believe it. Emma urged me to take it to HR immediately. This is enough to show she's targeting you. They can't ignore it. So I did. The HR director, a woman named Karen with a smile that never reached her eyes, watched the grainy video on Emma's phone. She leaned back in her chair afterward, tapping her pen against the desk. This could be anyone, she said flatly. My stomach dropped. Anyone? Look at the profile, it's clearly her. Karen shook her head. It's dark, the image is blurry. You're suspended for mishandling client data. I'd advise focusing on clearing that before you make accusations that could be considered defamatory. Defamatory. Like I was the one in the wrong. I left HR's office shaking, the video burning a hole in my pocket. When I passed Clara in the hallway, she looked at me with something close to amusement. Like she knew I'd tried and failed. That night, Emma poured me a drink, her face tight with anger. They're protecting her. Why? I didn't know. Unless she had dirt on them. Or worse, someone higher up was pulling strings for her. The thought made me sick. The following week was a blur of dread. HR's investigation dragged on, my suspension hanging over me like a noose. Bills piled up. Emma tried to reassure me, but even she looked worried, the fear in her eyes growing every day. Then things got worse. I came home one evening to find a police car parked outside our building. 2 officers stood in the hallway. "Are you?" "My name?" one of them asked. My chest tightened. "Yes. You're being investigated in connection with harassment claims filed by a coworker." My world tilted. "Clara." Emma was furious. "This is insane. She's the one harassing him." But the officer just nodded, taking notes. "If that's the case, you'll have the chance to respond. For now, don't contact the complainant. Any further incidents could escalate this into criminal charges." When they left, I sat on the couch staring at my hands. They were trembling. Clara hadn't just gone after my job. She was going after my freedom. Emma tried to hold me, but I pulled away. I couldn't breathe. She's everywhere. She's inside everything. That night, I dreamed of drowning, of opening my mouth underwater and Clara's laughter pouring in instead of air. The next day, Emma called Luke, begging him to come over. He showed up with a 6-pack, acting casual, but I saw the unease in his eyes as I told him everything. "Bro, you need a lawyer," he said finally. "I can't afford one." "Then figure it out. Because if she's making this official, she's not going to stop until you're ruined." He wasn't wrong. But even Luke didn't know how far Clara was willing to go. Because the following week, my bank account froze. Unauthorized transactions flagged my card. Thousands transferred out. All under my name. I sat on hold with the bank for hours before the fraud department finally confirmed it. My account had been accessed from my work laptop. The same laptop Clara had access to when IT took it for review. Emma found me slumped at the kitchen table, my phone pressed to my ear, my voice hollow. "She's not just taking my job. She's taking everything." Emma grabbed my hand. "Then we fight back." But how? Clara was always 2 steps ahead. Every move I made, she had a counter-move ready. Still, I couldn't just roll over. That night, I went back to the office after hours, slipping past security with my old keycard that hadn't been deactivated yet. I told myself I'd find something: emails, files, anything linking her to what she'd done. The building was silent. My footsteps echoed on the polished floor. I moved quickly, my heart racing, until I reached Clara's office. The door was locked, but the cleaning staff had left their cart nearby. I grabbed a thin metal tool and jimmied the handle until it clicked open. Inside, her desk was immaculate. Too immaculate. A single framed photo, a neat stack of folders, her computer monitor dark. I booted it up, praying her password was something simple. It wasn't. But when I turned to leave, I noticed the drawer slightly ajar. Inside was a notebook, black leather, worn at the edges. I flipped it open with trembling hands, and my blood ran cold. Page after page of notes, dates, times, my name written over and over, my schedule detailed down to the minute. Even notes about Emma, her shifts, her car, her favorite cafe. At the bottom of one page, scrawled in jagged handwriting, were the words, "He doesn't deserve any of this. I'll take it from him." I stuffed the notebook into my bag and ran before security could catch me. My heart thundered as I drove home, clutching the evidence like a lifeline. When I showed Emma, she covered her mouth in horror. "This is obsession," she whispered. "This isn't just sabotage. This is dangerous." And she was right, because the very next night, our apartment door was kicked in. We weren't home, but when we returned, the place was wrecked. Our clothes shredded, photos smashed. And in the center of the living room floor, written in red across the wall, were 3 words that made Emma scream. "I warned you." The words on the wall didn't look like paint. Emma's scream still echoes in my head when I think about that night. She stood frozen in the doorway, staring at the jagged red letters stretching across our living room wall. The stench hit me next, sharp, metallic. It was blood, animal blood, I would later learn. But in that moment, it was just terror. Emma grabbed my arm. "We have to call the police." And we did. 2 officers came, one young and nervous, the other older, bored. They walked through our trashed apartment, jotting notes, their expressions unreadable. "You have enemies?" the older one asked, like it was a casual question. "Yes," I said too quickly. "Her, Clara, from my work." The younger officer raised a brow. "And she broke in here? Any proof?" I held out the notebook I'd stolen from Clara's desk. Pages filled with my name, Emma's name, our schedules, our lives dissected in obsessive detail. "This is proof." They glanced through it, unimpressed. The older one sighed. "Looks like notes. Doesn't prove she vandalized your place." I wanted to scream. "What about the blood on the wall?" "The message?" "We'll file a report," the officer said calmly. "But unless you have video or eyewitness testimony, this doesn't hold up in court. Change your locks. Maybe install cameras." And that was it. They left us standing in our wreckage. Emma sank onto the couch, tears streaming down her face. "She's going to destroy us." "She already is." I pulled her close, but my own hands were shaking. "We'll fight back. Somehow. We have to." The next day, we bought cameras. Hidden ones. Living room. Hallway. Even one in the bedroom. I carried Clara's notebook everywhere, terrified she'd break in to take it back. But Clara didn't come near us again, at least not physically. Instead, the attack shifted. Anonymous complaints started pouring in about Emma at her job. False accusations of rudeness to customers. Claims she'd been stealing. Within a week, she was suspended, just like me. Emma sat at the kitchen table with her head in her hands. "She's not just after you. She's after me too." And the guilt crushed me. I started drinking more, just to sleep, to silence the racing thoughts. but every time I closed my eyes, I saw those words on the wall. I warned you. One night, after too many beers, I stumbled out onto the balcony for air. And that's when I saw her. Across the street, half hidden behind a tree. Clara, standing perfectly still, her face tilted upward toward me, watching. My breath caught in my throat. Emma, I started. But when I turned back, Clara was gone. The next morning, I checked the cameras. Nothing. No footage of her. No proof she'd been there. Emma tried to reassure me. Maybe you imagined it. But I hadn't. I knew I hadn't. The following week, I received an email from an unknown address. No message in the body, just one attachment. A photo. Me sleeping in my own bed. Emma was next to me, her face half buried in the pillow. My stomach lurched. Someone had been in our apartment while we slept. The police didn't take that seriously either. Could be photoshopped, they said. Emma started crying at night, muffling her sobs in the bathroom so I wouldn't hear. But I did. And it broke me. I tried showing the notebook to Martin, desperate for someone at work to see the truth. But when I got to the office, security stopped me. HR had flagged me as a potential threat. I wasn't even allowed inside. That's when I realized Clara had won at work. She'd taken that from me completely. But she wasn't satisfied, because 2 nights later, the fire alarm went off in our building at 3 a.m. Emma and I stumbled outside in our pajamas, smoke stinging our throats. The fire department arrived quickly, but the damage was done. Someone had set a small blaze in the basement, and in the ash afterward, the fire chief found something nailed to the wall. A photo of me and Emma, burned around the edges. Clara's handwriting scrawled across the back. Next time bigger. Emma's hands shook as she read it. She's going to kill us. I didn't argue, because I was starting to believe it too. That night, I sat alone in the dark. Clara's notebook spread out in front of me. My name filled page after page, her words crawling across the paper like a disease. One entry made me freeze. If I can't ruin him at work, I'll ruin him everywhere. He'll lose everything, and when he has nothing left, he'll finally understand. I stared at those words until my eyes blurred, and then my phone buzzed. A new message, no number, just a single sentence. You can't protect her forever. I ran to the bedroom. Emma was asleep, safe, for now, but Clara had crossed the last line, and I knew, deep down, the only way to end this was to confront her myself. Confronting someone like Clara wasn't bravery. It was desperation. I couldn't sleep that night after the fire. Emma's breathing beside me was uneven, her body tense even in dreams. I lay staring at the ceiling, the message replaying in my head. You can't protect her forever. By morning, something inside me snapped. I wasn't going to wait for Clara to burn our apartment down while we slept. I wasn't going to watch Emma unravel piece by piece. I was going to end it. I spent the day tracing back everything I knew about Clara, her schedule, the places she went after work, the gym 2 blocks from the office, the little cafe she favored on Fridays, her apartment building which I'd glimpsed once when we left a company dinner years ago. That night, I told Emma I needed some air. She looked at me with suspicion, worry written all over her face. Don't do anything stupid. I just need to think, I lied. I drove to Clara's building and parked across the street. The windows glowed with warm light, silhouettes moving behind curtains. My stomach twisted with nerves. What was I even planning? To beg her to stop, to threaten her, to finally demand an answer to why. Hours passed before I saw her. Clara stepped out of the building in a long coat, her hair tied back. She looked calm, effortless, like someone whose world was perfectly in order, and mine was in ruins. I followed her, at first, just driving slowly behind her as she walked, my palms sweating against the steering wheel. Then on foot, blending into the shadows, my heart pounding so loudly I thought she might hear it. She stopped at the cafe, ordered something, sat by the window, scrolling her phone, sipping her drink like nothing in the world was wrong. Like she hadn't wrecked my life. I stood outside, fists clenched in my pockets, staring through the glass. She looked up once, her eyes flicking to the window. For a moment, I thought she saw me, but she didn't react. Just smiled faintly, as if at some private joke. I couldn't do it. I couldn't storm in and confront her. Not there. Not with witnesses. So I waited. When she left, I trailed her back to her building. She unlocked the front door, disappearing inside. I should have gone home, but instead, I waited, until the lights in her apartment went dark, until the building fell silent. And then I slipped inside. The hallway smelled of dust and old paint. My footsteps echoed too loudly. I found her door easily 3rd floor, end of the hall. My hand hovered over the knob. Locked, of course. But something unexpected stopped me. A sound. Soft, muffled. From inside, I leaned closer. At first, I thought it was a TV, but then I realized. It was crying. Not Clara's. Deeper. A man's voice. Choked sobs, broken by harsh whispers. I froze, pressing my ear against the wood. Please, don't. The voice rasped. Clara's voice followed. Calm. Sharp. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. Cold authority. My blood turned to ice. There was someone else. Someone inside with her. I backed away, stumbling down the hall, my heart racing. Whatever was happening behind that door was bigger than I'd imagined. When I got home, Emma was waiting, her arms crossed. Where were you? I couldn't tell her the truth. Not yet. Driving, I muttered. She didn't believe me, but she didn't push either. The next morning, a package sat outside our door. No return address. Inside was a flash drive, my name scrawled across it in black marker. Emma begged me not to plug it in, but I had to. The files inside were recordings, audio, my voice, spliced into threatening messages I never said. One clip was of me snarling, "I'll burn this whole place down." Another, "She'd be sorry when I'm done." All fake, all fabricated. Emma covered her mouth, horrified. "She's setting you up. For arson, for harassment. For everything." I sat there numb, listening to my own voice saying things I never said. Clara wasn't just sabotaging my job, my finances, my safety. She was building a case. A perfect, airtight case to destroy me. And I realized, with chilling clarity, that the crying man in her apartment wasn't a random victim. He was practice. She was rehearsing, preparing to take me down completely. I turned to Emma, my voice shaking. "If I don't stop her, she's going to make sure I disappear." Emma whispered the words I was too afraid to say out loud. "Then maybe, we need to disappear first." But it was already too late. Because that night, police sirens lit up the street outside our building, and they were coming for me. The pounding on the door shook me out of the daze. "Open up, police." Emma clutched my arm, her face drained of color. What did she do? I didn't answer. My body moved on autopilot, shoving Clara's notebook under the couch cushions, unplugging the flash drive from the laptop, and stuffing it into my pocket. By the time I opened the door, 2 officers were already pushing their way inside. "My name? You're under investigation for arson and harassment," one of them announced, his voice clipped, rehearsed. Arson, just like the recordings, just like she'd planned. Emma stepped in front of me, her voice trembling. "This is insane. He didn't do any of this." "Ma'am, step aside. They didn't handcuff me. Not yet. But they might as well have." The neighbors peeked through their doors, whispering as the officers led me down the hall. My whole world had narrowed to the sound of my heartbeat, and Emma's choked sob behind me. At the station, they played the recordings. My voice, spliced together into a perfect confession. Threats, promises of fire, promises of revenge. Each clip more damning than the last. I slammed my fist against the table. "This is fake. She made this. Clara made this." The detective across from me arched a brow. "And who is Clara?" I explained everything. The sabotage at work, the break-in, the blood on the wall, the notebook, the flash drive. He listened, expressionless, scribbling notes. When I finished, he leaned back. "Do you have physical evidence?" "Yes, the notebook." "Where is it?" My stomach dropped. The couch. The couch where they'd searched the apartment before bringing me in. If Clara had been one step ahead, she could have retrieved it already. The detective's smirk told me all I needed to know. Convenient. I spent the night in a holding cell, the stink of sweat and fear thick in the air. Emma wasn't allowed to see me. The hours bled into each other until the door finally clanged open, and I was released, pending further investigation. Emma was waiting outside, her face pale but fierce. She threw her arms around me, shaking. "We have to run. She's framing you. She's not going to stop until you're gone." But something in me had shifted. Fear hardened into rage. "No, if we run, she wins. I'm going to expose her." Emma stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. The next day, I went back to Clara's building. Not at night this time. In broad daylight, people coming and going. My pulse hammered as I slipped inside, riding the elevator to her floor. Her door was ajar, just slightly. I pushed it open. The air was heavy, suffocating. Inside, the apartment was nothing like I'd imagined. No neat perfection, no polished surfaces. Every wall was covered in photos of me at work, at home, with Emma, hundreds of them. Some circled, some slashed through with red ink. Scribbled notes filled the margins. "He doesn't deserve her. He doesn't deserve anything. I'll take it all." In the corner, chained to a radiator, was the man I'd heard crying. His eyes widened when he saw me, his lips cracked, his voice a hoarse whisper. "Help me." I froze, my blood turning to ice. Before I could move, a voice slid through the silence. Smooth, calm. "I was wondering when you'd come." Clara, standing in the bedroom doorway, her head tilted, her eyes bright with something between madness and delight. "You're not supposed to be here," I managed, my voice shaking. Her smile widened. "Neither are you." She stepped closer, her gaze flicking to the man in the corner. "Don't worry about him. He's just a lesson. A rehearsal." My hands trembled. "Why me? Why are you doing this?" Her laughter was soft, chilling. "Because you don't deserve what you have. The job, the praise, the girl. It should have been mine. And now it will be." I backed toward the door, but she moved quicker than I expected, blocking my exit. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "You've already lost, you know. The police believe me. Your boss believes me. Even Emma will believe me soon enough. Everyone always does." Something snapped in me then. I shoved past her, sprinting for the stairs, my heart in my throat. She didn't chase me. She didn't have to. Because when I burst outside into the daylight, 2 squad cars were already pulling up to the curb. And Clara stood in the doorway above, watching with that same perfect, poisonous smile. They say, you know when someone set you up by how calm they look when the cuffs go on. Clara didn't flinch. She leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching as the officers grabbed me. Her smile was small, satisfied. A smile that said checkmate. "Wait!" I shouted, twisting against their grip. "She has someone in there. A man he's chained up. You have to look." The older officer gave me a shove toward the squad car. Save it for your lawyer. I turned my head, desperate, trying to lock eyes with the younger one. Please, he's dying in there. But Clara was already speaking to them, her voice honey-sweet, her tone laced with practiced fear. He broke in. He's been harassing me for months. I didn't think he'd actually. She let her voice catch, just enough to sound fragile. Please, just get him away from me. The younger cop nodded, sympathy softening his face. Sympathy for her, not me. They shoved me into the back of the car. I banged my fists against the window, screaming. Look in her apartment. He's in there. But no one listened. The drive back to the station was a blur of red and blue flashing lights. I pressed my forehead to the glass, fighting the suffocating certainty that Clara had finally won. Emma was waiting when they dragged me inside. Her eyes were wide, wild, searching my face. What happened? Before I could answer, the detective cut in. Your boyfriend was caught trespassing, attempting to break into a co-worker's home. That's not true, Emma snapped. She's the one harassing us. The detective raised a hand, weary. Ma'am, I understand you're upset, but we've received multiple reports, recordings, and now this. If he keeps escalating, Emma's voice cracked. You don't get it. She's setting him up. Can't you see that? But it was useless. I was tossed into an interrogation room again, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the walls pressing in like they were alive. My reflection in the one-way glass looked broken, hollow. The detective leaned across the table. This is your last chance. Admit you've been targeting her, and maybe we can work something out. Keep denying it, and you're going away for a long time. I stared at him. The words came out raw, jagged. If you don't check her apartment, you'll have blood on your hands. He scoffed. You expect us to believe she's hiding someone in there? Yes. My fist slammed the table hard enough to sting. Check the radiator. 3rd floor. End of the hall. Do it before it's too late. The detective studied me for a long, silent moment. Then he stood, muttering something about wasting time, and left. Hours passed. Maybe minutes. Time twisted in that room, curling around me like smoke. I was starting to wonder if I'd imagined it all. The man, the crying, the chains, when the door burst open. The younger officer, the one who'd hesitated earlier. His face was pale, his eyes wide. He grabbed my arm. They found him. My chest seized. What? The guy, in her apartment, just like you said. He's in bad shape, but alive. Relief crashed through me, but it was poisoned by dread. If they found him, then Clara's mask had to be cracking. Maybe, just maybe, this was my chance. But when they led me out, past the desks and the chaos of shouted orders, I caught sight of her. Clara, sitting calmly in a chair, a blanket draped over her shoulders, sipping water from a paper cup, and she was still smiling, like even this was part of her plan. Emma rushed to my side, her hands gripping mine like she'd never let go again. They believe you now, she whispered. They have to, but I wasn't so sure, because Clara lifted her gaze, met mine across the station, and mouthed 2 words. Not yet, and the bottom dropped out of my world again. Clara was right. Finding the man in her apartment didn't end it. It just complicated everything. The police rushed him to the hospital. He was dehydrated, bruised, his wrists rubbed raw from the chains. But when I demanded answers who he was, why Clara had him, the detective's face stayed carefully blank. It's under investigation, he said. Under investigation. The same phrase they'd used every time Clara slipped the knife deeper into my life. I pressed harder. That should prove everything. She's dangerous. She's been lying, framing me. The detective cut me off, his voice sharp. It proved she had a man in her apartment. Nothing more. Emma exploded then, her voice rising over the hum of the station. Are you serious? She chained someone up. How is that not enough? Other officers glanced over, uneasy, but none of them intervened. We were released reluctantly, Emma with fury boiling in her eyes. We went home to our wrecked apartment, the blood still smeared on the wall, the smell of smoke still clinging to our clothes. I collapsed on the couch. Emma sat beside me, gripping my hand so tight it hurt. She's untouchable, I whispered. Even with him, even with all this, she's still winning. Emma's jaw tightened. Then we make her lose. The words settled in my chest like a spark in dry wood. I wasn't sure if Emma meant lawyers, the press, or something darker, and I wasn't sure I cared, because I was done waiting for Clara's next move. Over the next few days we gathered everything. The flash drive with the fabricated recordings, screenshots of the anonymous emails, photos of the vandalized car, every threatening note, and Clara's notebook, which miraculously was still wedged deep under the couch. Emma spread it all across the table like evidence in a crime drama. We take this to someone outside the police, a journalist, a lawyer, someone who doesn't already think you're crazy. But I hesitated. Clara had always been 2 steps ahead. What if she already knew we were planning this? That night, I got my answer. Our phone rang just past midnight. Emma answered, her voice groggy, then her face drained of color. She handed me the receiver with trembling hands. A voice on the other end, smooth, familiar. Miss me? Clara. My mouth went dry. What do you want? She laughed softly, the sound curling like smoke. To watch. To see how much further you'll fall before you finally break. You're not clever enough to beat me. You never were. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles whitened. You've already lost, Clara. They found him. They know what you are. Silence. Then, chillingly calm. You think that matters? He won't talk. He owes me too much. They all do. You'll see. The line went dead. Emma's hand found mine. What did she say? I stared at the silent receiver, my heart hammering. She's not done. The next morning proved her right. News broke. The man in her apartment was identified as her brother. He told police he'd been staying there voluntarily. The chains were a consensual arrangement. The bruises? Old injuries. The story flipped overnight. Clara wasn't a monster. She was a victim of my obsession. And I was painted as unstable again. Emma hurled her coffee mug against the wall when she saw the news. She's rewriting reality. She's untouchable. I sank into the chair, the weight of it all pressing me down. Clara's smile at the station haunted me. Not yet. She'd meant this. That no matter what, she would always stay one step ahead. But as the hours dragged by, something inside me hardened. If the system couldn't stop her, if the police wouldn't stop her, then there was only one option left. I would stop her myself. Emma must have seen it in my eyes, because she grabbed my face in both hands, tears brimming. Don't go down to her level. That's what she wants. But I pulled her hands away, my voice low, steady. No, what she wants is to watch me lose everything. What she's not expecting, I leaned forward, whispering the words like a vow, is for me to fight back. And for the first time, I saw fear flicker in Emma's eyes. Not of Clara, of me. Once you start thinking about revenge, it doesn't leave your mind. It eats at you, shapes every thought. I tried to keep it hidden from Emma, but she saw it. She saw the way I sat up late into the night, staring at Clara's notebook spread across the table like some deranged roadmap. She saw the way my jaw clenched every time the news ran another piece about Clara's stalker co-worker. She saw the way my hands trembled, not with fear anymore, but with fury. You're scaring me, she whispered one night, her fingers brushing mine. I pulled away. Good, because that's the only way we'll survive this. The turning point came 2 days later. Emma's mom called, panicked. Someone had shown up at her store, asking questions about Emmy, her schedule, her routines, whether she lived with anyone. The description matched Clara. That was it. That was the moment I knew Clara wasn't just after me. She wanted to destroy Emma too. I couldn't allow that. So I planned. I tracked Clara the way she tracked me. Followed her from her office to the grocery store, from her gym to her apartment. I kept my distance, but my rage was a leash pulling me closer each time. I bought a burner phone. I created fake accounts. I started feeding her pieces of information, anonymous tips, little breadcrumbs to lure her into the idea that someone else was watching her. Someone other than me. And it worked. One night, I saw her pacing outside her building, glancing over her shoulder, her posture tighter than usual. She wasn't invincible. She could be rattled. That's when I realized something chilling. I was becoming her. Emma begged me to stop. This isn't you. She's winning if you turn into the same thing she is. But I couldn't listen. Not anymore. The final straw came the following week. I returned home to find our door wide open. Emma was gone. My chest hollowed out as I sprinted through the apartment. Nothing. No note. No trace. Then my phone buzzed. A text from a blocked number. Come get her. Attached was a photo. Emma, tied to a chair, her eyes wide with terror. Clara's hand resting on her shoulder. I drove like a madman to the address pinned in the message. A warehouse on the edge of town. Abandoned. My headlights swept across broken windows and rusting metal doors. My pulse was a war drum in my ears. Inside, the air was thick with dust. My footsteps echoed in the cavernous space. Clara, I shouted, my voice cracking. Let her go. Her laughter floated from the shadows. Soft, mocking, finally. I was wondering how far I'd have to push you. Emma's muffled cries came from the center of the room. She was tied to a chair, just like in the photo. Her eyes locked on mine, pleading. I rushed toward her, but Clara stepped into the light, calm, smiling. A knife glinted in her hand. You wanted proof? Evidence? She tilted her head. Here it is. Your obsession. Your breaking point. All I have to do is scream. And when the police come, they'll find you standing over me with this. She waved the knife. My stomach lurched. She was setting me up for murder. But I didn't care anymore. I lunged. We collided, the knife clattering across the concrete floor. She clawed at my face, her nails raking my skin. I shoved her back, my fists trembling with rage. Emma screamed through the gag, thrashing against the ropes. Clara stumbled, caught herself, and laughed. Actually laughed. Do it. Hit me. Finish it. Give them exactly what they already believe about you. My hands hovered in the air, trembling. Every nerve in my body screamed to strike, to end her, to silence her once and for all. But then I saw Emma, her eyes, terrified, not of Clara, of me. I froze, my hands dropped, my chest heaved. Clara leaned close, her whisper venomous, pathetic, and that's when the sirens wailed outside. Red and blue lights cut through the warehouse windows. She'd called them, she'd planned everything. As the doors burst open and officers stormed in, Clara stepped back, her face morphing instantly into terror. Help me, he was going to kill us. And I knew, this was the end. The guns were pointed at me, hands where we can see them. I froze, my palms lifted, my breath tearing out in ragged gasps. Clara was behind them now, her face streaked with fake tears, her voice trembling on command. He broke in, he tied her up, he was going to kill me. Emma thrashed against the ropes, screaming behind the gag. Her eyes begged them to see the truth, but all they saw was me, standing in the middle of an abandoned warehouse. Sweat dripping, blood on my face, a knife gleaming on the ground at my feet. It was perfect. Too perfect. Clara's final masterpiece. The officers rushed me, slamming me to the concrete, the taste of iron filling my mouth as the cuffs snapped around my wrists. Clara flinched back, whispering, "Thank you," to the cops as if they'd saved her life. I tried to shout, to tell them Emma was the one who'd been tied up, that Clara had orchestrated every second. But my words came out garbled, drowned in the chaos. They freed Emma. She tore the gag away, her voice hoarse, raw. "It's not him, it's her. She did this." But Clara was already shaking her head, sobbing into an officer's chest. "She's brainwashed too. He's dangerous." The lines blurred, reality bent. For a moment, I thought maybe Clara would actually win, that she'd bury me for good. But then, fate shifted. One officer, young, nervous, the same one who'd doubted before, moved toward Emma. He bent down, inspecting the ropes. His face hardened. "These knots," he muttered. "What?" another officer asked. "These aren't tied by someone struggling. These are staged." He cut Emma free, showing the ropes. The way they'd been looped to look dramatic, but never actually tight. His eyes flicked toward Clara, sharp with sudden suspicion. The silence cracked. Emma stumbled forward, seizing her chance. She yanked the flash drive from her pocket, the one we'd kept hidden, the one with the fabricated recordings. "Check this. It's proof." She made them. She's been framing him from the start. For the first time, Clara's mask slipped, just slightly. A flicker of panic in her eyes. The detective, the same one who'd dismissed me so many times before, grabbed the drive and barked an order. An officer plugged it into a laptop. The room filled with distorted audio, my voice, twisted into threats. Then the telltale signs of editing. Cuts, overlaps, synthetic stitching. The illusion crumbled. The younger cop's voice was steady, hard now. "She set him up." And Clara laughed. Not a nervous laugh, not denial. A full, sharp laugh that echoed through the warehouse. "You idiots," she hissed. "You think this ends here? He doesn't deserve any of it. None of it. And I'll make sure he loses everything, even if it's from a cell." They grabbed her then, forced her down, cuffed her hands. Her eyes locked on mine as they dragged her past, blazing with fury. "I'll never stop," she whispered. Never. And I believed her. The days that followed blurred together. Statements, lawyers, news headlines, flipping overnight co-worker exposed an elaborate sabotage plot. People who once whispered behind my back now reached out with empty apologies. Martin called, his voice dripping with regret. HR sent a formal letter offering reinstatement, but none of it mattered. I'd lost months of my life, my reputation, my peace, Emma's safety, and worst of all, I'd lost myself, because I couldn't stop replaying the warehouse. The knife at my feet, the rage in my hands. How close I'd come to giving Clara exactly what she wanted. Emma held me through the nights when I jolted awake, drenched in sweat. "It's over," she whispered again and again. But it wasn't, not really, because even with Clara behind bars, her voice lingered in my head, her laugh, her promise. And sometimes, in the quiet hours before dawn, I'd catch myself staring at the shadows, wondering if she was right. If maybe, she had already taken everything that mattered. That was the day I stopped recognizing who I was.